With just 3 days left for upcoming presidency of Donald Trump, the Narendra Modi government is confident that the administration of the 47th president will have a positive outlook specifically towards India. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is flying to Washington on January 19th to attend the inauguration of the 47th U.S. president as India's representative. Modi's slogan of India First for Global Good has had intersection with Trump's Make America Great Again. Modi and Trump will converge on counterterrorism, Ukraine war, and implementation of the Gaza ceasefire, as both the leaders want action against pan-Islamic terrorist groups. The biggest threat to India will be Trump's threat to sanction countries who have been perceived to be taking advantage of US lax trade policies in the past. Namaskar. With just 3 days left for upcoming presidency of Donald Trump, the Narendra Modi government is confident that the administration of the 47th president will have a positive outlook specifically towards India in policy terms, while there is a distinct possibility that New Delhi could be collateral damage of the Republican leader's global policies directed towards third adversarial nations. President-elect Trump has had a great start to his second innings, with his team managing to enforce Gaza hostage-Israel ceasefire deal involving the return of captured hostages during October 7, 2023 terror attack in return for phased withdrawal of Israeli army from the once Hamas-ruled territory. Given that it was Donald Trump who had got the Abraham Accord signed on September 15, 2020, the Gaza ceasefire will bring much-needed peace to the region, with Sunni powers like Saudi Arabia and UAE looking towards Israel for the revival of the Middle East economic corridor from India to European ports in the Mediterranean. Ceasefire in Gaza also revives hope for the much-needed cessation of hostilities between Russia and Ukraine. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President-elect Trump share close vibes, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is flying to Washington on January 19th to attend the inauguration of the 47th U.S. president as India's representative. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval have been constantly in touch with key officials of the incoming Trump administration, even as they wrapped up the bilateral agenda with the outgoing Biden administration. That India shares a bipartisan relationship with the US is quite evident from the fact that the outgoing administration not only delisted 3 key Indian entities from the sanctions list since 1998 Pokhran test, but also put an end to the Pannu criminal case after meticulous investigations were conducted on both sides. The role played by key interlocutors from India, outgoing US NSA Jake Sullivan, Director National Intelligence Avril Haines in delisting of the entities and the Pannun case respectively is worth noting. President-elect Trump and Prime Minister Modi have one thing in common, which is that they both believe in nation-first policies and are determined towards expansion of the economic clout of their respective democratic countries. Modi's slogan of India First for Global Good has had intersection with Trump's Make America Great Again. But there could be a discordant notes on immigration and trade tariffs. In the run-up to the US presidency, Trump has made it quite evident that he will weaponize the trade tariffs against those countries promoting illegal immigration, trade barriers, and growing at the expense of America. However, India's apex policy planners are sanguine about Trump's India-specific policies, but believe that India could get hit unintentionally over the new president's policies towards restraining the expansionist regime of Chinese President Xi Jinping. For example, if the Trump administration takes on China over the supply chains, manufacturing of semiconductors, India's relatively small semiconductor industry could be a collateral hit. The same friction could crop up in the Indo-Pacific as US attempts to gain dominance in the region and could force China to take counteractions in the Indian Ocean through its Southeast Asian allies, causing a severe headache for India. Any Chinese unilateral action on Taiwan will surely precipitate a global crisis, as US will not allow Xi Jinping regime to cross the first island chain and thus make American assets in Guam and the East Coast vulnerable to Chinese ballistic missile submarines, apart from disrupting the international internet cables laid behind Busan Channel and the first island chain. War or friction in the Indo-Pacific will have serious impact on global trade, as sea lanes of communication will be disrupted and the cost of shipping will skyrocket in terms of insurance and crew safety. The biggest threat to India will be Trump's threat to sanction countries who have been perceived to be taking advantage of US lax trade policies in the past and violating the global level playing field. As in his previous tenure as the 45th US president, Trump will not hesitate to increase tariff on imported goods to promote domestic manufacturing in US and send a message to the errant nations. This fits not only with his political slogan, but also with the Republican working classes electorate who have voted him to power despite all odds. Another issue that could cause friction between the two natural allies is immigration, as Trump has won the presidential election on securing US borders, particularly from Mexico to the south and from Canada in the north. While his focus will be to stop illegal immigration, the US definition on the origin, nationality, and the deportation process of the so-called illegal immigrant could cause pain to many countries, including India. This action is inevitable from the upcoming administration, as illegal immigration was the key vote catcher in the US presidential election. Barring these two possible friction points, Modi and Trump will converge on counterterrorism, Ukraine war, and implementation of the Gaza ceasefire, as both the leaders want action against pan-Islamic terrorist groups and want warring parties on the negotiating table. Prime Minister Modi has close personal ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and could use his good offices to support the peace effort in Ukraine and Gaza. Trump has a working relationship with President Putin, close personal ties with Netanyahu, and this could ensure that the fighting in Eastern Europe and the Middle East could be brought to a close through negotiations. While Israel has been able to avenge the October 7, 2023 massacre to decimate Iranian-backed militias like Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria, the only present resolution to the Ukraine war is a temporary ceasefire pending negotiations, as Russia has already co-opted the annexed Ukraine territories into its constitution. If the US pressure on Russia over the Ukraine war eases, then Moscow's dependency on China also decreases proportionally. This will be a positive for both India and the US, as Beijing still seriously relies on weapon platforms from rather aging military-industrial complex of the erstwhile Soviet Union. Even though the leftist and the liberal media believes that the Trump presidency is all about taking revenge and retribution against his political opponents, the 47th president will perhaps use the next 4 years to establish his legacy as the leader who made America a dominant economic and a military power again. India should be smiling on January 20, 2025. Namaskar.